Hey, this is McGarren Fleck. Just going to talk about a few things. This one obviously is about how studies suck. I think maybe they suck. Mostly they do because they're not fun, but that's not even true either. Studies in general can be, I think they're actually kind of fun. Kind of like this donut painting that I'm doing. I mean, if you look here, in the first 30 seconds, I haven't even drawn a contour of this donut. In fact, I think that when I painted this donut, I was thinking I was painting fast, but I was also trying to get things relatively accurate. So it's a finished painting that I could sell at some moment or at some time. So what is a study or a quick study? First off, let's answer the question, what is a study? So a study is an idea placed on canvas. And that study is something that you can revamp or reevaluate or redo in the context of making it better when you create a more finished painting instead of doing a study. So a study, you're just working out the process, trying to think of the concept, shooting for a very specific goal. Maybe the study is a study of color or study of value or study of shape or study of composition, whatever it may be. A study is just a simple idea. So what is quick? Well, some people think that quick is 1 minute. Others think 30 minutes. Quick nowadays, I think with all the social media that we have, is about 3 seconds. That's pretty darn quick. That's how much time we spend looking at an image. So you have to create an image that is interesting for people to look at for longer than 3 seconds, right? So anyways, something that is quick and that is a study, I think that would define a quick study. I had a conversation with Brian Astle, a colleague of mine at the university, and we were talking about how he took a course on quick studies, and he really liked it because it was a fast, focused pace. They had various assignments that they had to do within a couple of minutes. Some of them were within 30 minutes. And the reason why we're talking about this is because we had a conversation about how students will give assignments to students that will say, okay, you have to finish this painting by the end of the class period, which tends to be 2 to 2.5 hours. And when they think of getting it done within 2 or 2.5 hours, they think they're going fast, but the reality is they really slow down and they don't even get it done in 2.5 hours because they're not managing their time well. So we were thinking about how can we correct this issue? How can we make it more beneficial for the students so that they can better manage their time effectively? We both tried this experiment where we would say, okay, students, you have 30 minutes to do this painting or 10 minutes to do this painting. And you have to finish it within the 10 minutes. You need to learn to simplify. And I'm going to start the timer here in 1 minute. So get your palette ready and get ready to paint. So they would start to paint. And in 30 minutes, they would have paint all over the canvas. But if you give them 2.5 hours to do a painting, they won't have paint all over the canvas in the first 5 minutes. They would have paint all over the canvas after an hour and a half. And you're like, what are you doing with your time? And that's why I think quick studies are really important. And my idea of a quick study, kind of like with Brian Astle's, is 15 minutes total. So you're sharing your idea in 15 minutes. There was a head painting class I took at Brigham Young University when I was an undergrad there in the illustration program. I took a class from Don Sieg Miller, and I think he's still teaching now, but I don't think he's teaching at BYU. Either way, he had us in our head painting class. We would do 2 head paintings a week in class, so one on Monday, one on Wednesday. And then he said, for your homework, you're supposed to work on 2 more head paintings by the end of the week. So each week we were doing 4 head paintings, 2 hours each for each head painting. We could do a master copy, we could set up a model, we could do whatever we wanted with our head paintings, but we just had to do 2 outside of class. And at the very beginning of the semester, doing a head painting in 2 hours, they looked really, really bad. I mean, mostly they were unfinished and they looked really bad. You wouldn't get any of the eyelashes in there or the pupils in there. I mean, you're like, what am I painting? How do I get this done in 2 hours? It was a cluster. He didn't really give us much direction on what we were supposed to do with our time. He just said, spend 2 hours, work on head painting, and do 2 of them, turn it in for the next week to get credit. So we did it. By the end of the semester, I think we did something like 52 head paintings, something along those lines. And that is a boatload. You would go into some courses and you would do maybe 1 head painting a week. And by the end of the semester, you had 16 that you had done or finished. Well, from the head painting class that I took after we did 50 some odd, maybe it was even 60 head paintings, by the time I was done with that semester, I understood color a lot better. I understood value a lot better. I understood shapes. I could paint them quickly in about 2.5 hours. And I went from doing a head painting in 4 hours down to 2 hours. It was amazing what I learned when I did these quick little head paintings. But it's rough start at the beginning because it's hard to manage. So what is the benefit of a poster study? They are obviously going to be quick, and it's a study. So there's no real, like, am I going to paint this good enough to be able to hang on my grandmother's refrigerator? There's none of that context. It's a study. You're learning. So there is same value or color groupings that you could focus on. Is it easier to manage? And if you are working on a quick poster study, I would say that, yeah, your color and value groupings do get better, and it is easier to manage your time and the effectiveness with your painting. And this, I think, can be applied to almost anything. One example is I was learning how to play pickleball. I've been playing pickleball for like a year now, and a little over a year. And it's been kind of fun to do, but I've been playing it right-handed, and I injured my right shoulder. And I was like, oh no, I'm done. I can't play pickleball anymore. I injured my right shoulder. And I said, bull bumblebee tuna. And I have a left arm. If I have a left arm, I could use it, train it, just like I've done with my right arm. So I started playing with my left arm. It was a very rough start. I felt like I was starting all over. But the reality, after doing it for about 3 weeks once a week for 3 weeks, I started picking up and I started learning and I started understanding how to angle my hand better, how to hit the ball better, how to control my left arm. And now my left arm is almost as good as my right arm. And that's a difference from learning the sport for a year versus switching arms and playing for a month. So I feel like quick studies are similar. It's very awkward at the beginning and you don't know what you're doing, but the more you do it, the more you figure out how to do it, which I think is pretty beneficial. But you need to work at it. You can't just sit there in your head and think, I'll get better if I think about it. I think I'm going to be a good person at doing these paintings because I'm thinking about it so much. No, stop thinking about it. Just do it. So how do you do a successful quick study? I think it's two things. You have a direction and you time it. For example, if you wanted to learn how to turn form, like I'm trying to figure out how to turn form with this donut that I'm painting here. I want to do it in 30 minutes. I'm like, all right, I have 30 minutes to do a donut painting, and I want to be able to turn the form effectively. So that's exactly what I'm doing with this donut painting. I'm looking at my light shapes versus my shadow shapes. I'm looking at my value grouping and my color grouping so that it is convincing when somebody is looking at the painting. So as of right now, the majority of the donut is completely finished. I mean, that took me almost 10 minutes to do it, but I'm going to put in some nice little candies that are sitting on top of the donut. I have to put in the background and all that stuff. And this is a pretty small painting. It's only 4 by 6 inches. But I have a direction. The direction is, how do I simplify this information? How do I describe the form in as few brushstrokes as I possibly can and make it look natural, but also make it look like a painting? And it's a quick study. So here's the other thing. If it's not successful in the amount of time that you put in there, stop it at the end of the 30 minutes because you've timed it, and then start over again. Do another one in 30 minutes. If you put that time limit on there and you're wanting to understand form and you didn't do it the first time around, do it the second time around. And if you didn't learn it then, do it the third time around. You got to really take the time and focus on one thing to work on. If you're like, well, I'll set it for 30 minutes and I'm going to work on color and form and value and shape, that's too much. You need to stop. You need to simplify everything. So simplify your mark making, simplify the value, simplify the structure, simplify your freaking goals. Holy guacamole. You have 30 minutes to do something. You can't think of everything in 30 minutes, especially when you're learning how to paint. But if you do have one single direction and you have a time frame to be able to go in that single direction, you're setting yourself up for success. So how do you work on these quick studies, and what's the purpose of doing these quick studies? So if you have a direction that you're going for your paintings, you want to create an awesome donut painting like this one that's I'm demonstrating right now. So if you want to create this awesome donut painting and you want to do it in 30 minutes and you do it 10, 15, 20 times, I don't know how many donuts I freaking painted. I've painted donuts, I don't know, like 15, 20 donuts, and they're all little studies like this. I mean, I'm not going in with painstaking detail. I'm kind of keeping it impressionistic and light. It's just a fun little painting. But the more I do it, I'm solidifying a process. And what does that mean? I'm solidifying the process. So whatever you repeat in terms of a process becomes permanent. Increasing your speed and focus makes that become permanent. So eventually, after practicing this donut painting for 30 minutes, I'm going to start to get faster and more effective use of my time because I understand how to use the tools better, and I've done it within a certain time frame. So it really solidifies the process. And I'm going to share another example here. I had students in my intermediate drawing class. This is a fun story. And we were getting prepared to set up our plaster casts on the wall and start to draw from them, but we didn't get the lights in for me to be able to install in the room. And so we only had 2 lights in the room. We didn't set up the plaster casts, and I said, okay, we're going to talk about a few things. So we talked about and critiqued the previous assignment, which was a Barg cast drawing that they copied, and they did a really good job. And so I said, okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to try to solidify the process. And here are some drawings from Barg's book, and they were figures. And I said, pick whichever one you want. We're going to have 20 minutes to do these Barg drawings. And the students kind of looked at me because we've been, of course they looked at me because I was talking, but they looked at me weird. They gave me a weird look. There we go. That's more like it. They gave me a weird look. And we're like, what? Barg drawing in 20 minutes? We've been spending almost 2 weeks on these Barg drawings. And I said, yeah, well, we spent 1 week working on these Barg drawings, so that's 5 hours a week. And then they worked on it for homework. So they've spent about 10 hours per Barg drawing on some of them at the beginning of the semester. I said, now we're going to do them in 20 minutes. I said, we're focusing on the process. And then I went through the steps. What is the process? We have to do plumb line. We have the top and the bottom to establish. We're going to create an envelope. We're going to refine that envelope into secondary shapes. We're going to refine those secondary shapes into tertiary shapes. And then we're going to really refine that contour only if all of the proportions and shapes are correct. We're not just going to go mind-numbingly through the process. We're going to make corrections as we're going, but we only have 20 minutes to do it. So get as far as you possibly can. And I set it up. We started to work on the drawing. I went around. I was critiquing some of their stuff. I was noticing that some of them were not creating an envelope. They were just starting from the top of the head and drawing down to the arms, to the torso, to the legs, and then the feet and the arms. They were thinking they were creating an envelope. And so I stopped them and said, okay, we're going to do this again, get a different reference. I asked them, okay, we have 20 minutes to do another bar drawing. What is an envelope? And they're all, oh, an envelope, is 4 to 7 straight lines that you can fit the whole body or torso or face in, whatever you're wanting to focus on. Like, okay, great. Let's do this again. So we went through the process. They started to draw. Within the first 10 minutes of drawing, which was halfway there, they should have been halfway done. Some of them did not even draw on the envelope. Almost half of them, more than half of them. I went through and I was like, wait a second, you guys, what's going on here? You're supposed to be drawing the envelope before moving on to the secondary shapes. And some of you are just jumping into drawing those secondary shapes and ignoring the envelope. The envelope is so important. And so I went and looked at them after talking to 3 or 4 students and saying, you need to get that envelope in there. I just stopped the class. I said, everybody stop. Lift up your pencil. I love doing this in class. Lift up your pencil, see how they're actually holding their pencil. Or are they drawing really close to the easel, or are they trying to stand back away from it so that they can see the shapes better, whatever it may happen. And I said, okay, step away from the easel. Everybody, take your eraser. I want you to erase your drawing. And so they all erased their drawings. I went up to the chalkboard. I started drawing and saying, okay, what is wrong with this process? And I started to draw the way that they were drawing, doing the secondary shapes before getting the envelope. And some of the students that know the process said, oh, no, you're drawing the secondary shapes. You need to stop doing that. I'm like, okay, how am I going to stop doing that? And asked for feedback and critiques and understanding, reevaluated the process and said, all right, now we're going to start over again, and we're going to do 20 minutes, and you're going to be drawing. I might have said 30 minutes. I think it was 20 minutes. But anyways, they were going to redraw the whole entire process. And that second time we went through it, sure enough, they started to create the envelope. The drawings, I think, looked much better when they followed the process. But if you're not following a process, and this is where it comes full circle, if you're not following the process that you have set up with your quick studies, you are not setting yourself up for success. You got to hold yourself accountable to what you're doing. Don't just say, I'm going to do these quick studies and throw paint around. Have a direction, have a focus, have drive, and stick to it. Stick to your freaking guns, people. I don't know. It's hard to see a lot of these young artists that think that they're hot shots in their ability to paint or draw or sculpt or whatever, and they just get stuck in this what I call the flow zone. And they get into the flow. They're like, yeah, I'm just going to render out these forms. They start rendering these forms out. And yeah, the forms look pretty good, but they're not really accurate. And if they want to do a portrait painting, I don't think they would look very good. And that's a different conversation to have about getting a likeness. Maybe I have time to be able to talk about it. I don't know. I'm kind of bringing this painting home a little bit here. I think I have about 5 or 6 more minutes. So I'm going to do a tangent. Ready for a tangent? Yep, we're going there. Okay, Sargent. If you look at John Singer Sargent's paintings, they would call him, in the newspaper and stuff, a cartoonist. So he wouldn't make it look exactly like the model. Bouguereau, on the other hand, he would do his portraits and he would make it look exactly like the model or the sitter, whoever it was. And Sargent wouldn't. He would take some artistic liberties and do these beautiful paintings. When you're starting out with your artwork, I think you need to try to nail it as best as you possibly can. You should learn how to be 100% accurate. But then when you become a professional, you don't have to be 100% accurate. But if you've never had the training to be 100% accurate, you'll never be able to get to being 100% accurate because 90% is always going to be good enough for you. And I think it's a lot easier to work your process to 100%, especially when you're learning, and learn how to be very, very accurate. Accurate. I think I said accurate, but it's accurate. You need to be accurate in your proportions, values, colors, shapes, and then, and only then, after you've nailed those, can you go back in and make things not as accurate. So idealizing would be one of the phrases. There's another experience that I had. I studied with Jeremy Lipking I think it was in 2005. That's a long time ago. That dates me for sure. But Jeremy Lipking and his family, they are stellar human beings. I mean, just awesome people. As some people would say, salt of the earth. But Jeremy Lipking and his family, his wife, Danielle, stellar person too. But I'm sitting there painting, and I remember this very specifically. It's one of the few things that I remember. I've not a very good memory, but I'm sitting there doing this painting with Jeremy Lipking. I'm kind of sitting in front of Jeremy, if I remember correctly. Jeremy's kind of behind me and off to the left a little bit, and the model is in front of both of us. We're painting the same exact model. Her name is, I think it was Sahai, T-S something, Sahai, something like that. And beautiful model and really good model. This was in California. We're painting her, the same model. She gets up after about 2 or 3 hours of modeling for us, and she looks at my painting. And here I was an undergrad at Brigham Young University. I wanted to be a painter just like John Singer Sargent, and Jeremy Lipking was kind enough to let me study with him. And we're just sitting there painting. The model stands up. She looks at my painting. She says, wow, that looks just like me. And I'm like, bam, thank you, ma'am. I'm like, what? I totally nailed this. Looks just like the model. She's so excited. I'm so excited. Yeah, nailed it. I'm going to be the best portrait painter in the world and all that stuff. Anyways, that's what was going through my head here, as a naive young person, new at painting. And then she walks over and looks at Jeremy Lipking's painting, and she says like one word, and it was perfect. She said, beautiful. And I don't know why I got so angry, but I got angry. I was like, are you serious? I wasn't angry at the model. I wasn't angry at Jeremy. I wasn't angry. I was more angry at myself. I was angry at myself because I wanted to create something beautiful. But I wanted to get a good likeness. And it's not that the model wasn't beautiful. The model was gorgeous. She was beautiful. She had beautiful shapes, beautiful color. She had this beautiful turban type thing on her head. I think it was a turban headdress. I don't know what to call it. But beautiful model. And Jeremy just like hit it out of the park. I think he sold it that next week. It was crazy. He ended up finishing it in his studio. I ended up finishing mine, I think, at his studio. I ended up selling my painting too, but my painting was nowhere near as beautiful as Jeremy Lipking's. It was just, he still is light years away or ahead. Man, if I could start talking. He's light years ahead of me in terms of skill and understanding of paint. Phenomenal artist. So, that was a great experience for me to hear the model say, wow, that was beautiful. So what I do now is different from what I did as an undergrad. As an undergrad, yes, try to be as accurate as you possibly can. Learn the skill, learn the craft, learn how to do everything that you possibly can, and learn how to be very, very accurate. After that, you can kind of take some artistic liberties. You've earned the ability to use artistic liberties. And so that's kind of my stance in terms of working on paintings and also for studies. So to bring it back full circle, is it important to be accurate? Yes. Is it important to be fast? I don't know. If you feel like time is money, then sure. If you don't feel like time is money and you just do it for enjoyment, then yeah, take as much time as you need, go as fast as you want. It doesn't make that much of a difference. But if you're trying to make it a profession, I recommend doing a lot of studies to be able to increase the success of your painting. So like right here at the end of this painting, I'm doing all these vertical brush strokes because I want to take away the shine of the light that is bouncing off the ridge of the paint strokes. So if I do these vertical brush strokes, it gets rid of that glossy shine or sheen that is on there, and it flattens out the background. But donut studies, for me, the reason why I do them is it just gets me to paint. Throw down some paint, 30 minutes is better than not throwing down any paint. I could sell them for about $100 each or $200 each, which can justify the study. But to me, it's still just a study. So would I recommend doing studies? Yes, I totally would. They can be life-changing, especially if you're trying to change your life with your artwork and become a better painter. But doing a finished painting is also beneficial. So maybe you could do both at the same time. Either way, I'm out of time for this video. So thank you very much for watching it. And I would love to hear your thoughts on doing studies. Maybe you could do 100, 200 studies in a month's time. I don't know. Let me know what you think. And if this video was a waste of your time, I'm sorry, that really sucks. And I hope I catch you on the next one.